The year was 1988, and McLaren was dominating in Formula One. Their driver lineup featured Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, two of the greatest racing drivers of all time, and their car, the MP4, would go on, by the end of the season, to become one of the most dominant Formula One cars of all time. In 1988, McLaren appeared to have achieved the pinnacle of what was possible in automotive engineering. However, Gordon Murray, a designer at McLaren who helped design the all-conquering MP4, wished to push the boundaries of automotive engineering further. In September of 1988, Murray proposed a concept for a revolutionary new road car to the directors of McLaren. It became clear as the various priorities of this new car were laid out that McLaren were going to be embarking on a quest to build the ultimate road car. The McLaren F1 was born. When it was released, the McLaren F1 was one of the most extreme cars ever made. Gordon Murray was given free rein to create the ultimate road car with minimal compromises, which showed in the engineering of the F1. The McLaren F1 featured a full carbon fiber monocoque chassis, active aerodynamics, and a suite of advanced materials, such as titanium, magnesium, gold, carbon fiber, and Kevlar. As a result, the car weighed just 1,138 kilograms. The McLaren F1 also had unique features, such as a 14.4K modem to send diagnostic information to the factory, and its unique three-seat layout, in which the driver sits in the center of the car, with each passenger seat to either side of and behind the driver's seat. The car was powered by a 6.1-liter V12 that was specially built for it by BMW, which sat in an engine bay lined with gold foil, because gold was the most efficient heat reflector. The engine produced 627 horsepower and 650 Newton-meters of torque, which allowed for the McLaren F1 to accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.2 seconds, and to achieve a top speed of 240 miles per hour, making it the fastest production car in the world until 2005. Before the McLaren F1, the previous fastest production car in the world achieved a top speed of just 217 miles per hour. Even though the McLaren F1 was far ahead of its time in many respects, it was a car which started production in 1992, and was one of the last truly analog supercars to have been built. The F1 utilized a 6-speed manual gearbox and had no anti-lock or power brakes, no traction control, no power steering, and no electronic driver aids of any kind. As a result of this, the McLaren F1, while having performance which rivals supercars of today, offers one of the purest driving experiences of any road car. Gordon Murray, when designing the McLaren F1, set out to create the ultimate road car, and thus designed the McLaren F1 for the road and not for the racetrack. In 1994, the BPR Global GT Series began, which featured production cars that were modified into racing cars. Given the extreme performance of the McLaren F1, several racing teams wished to race modified McLaren F1s in the series, and attempted to convince Gordon Murray to offer factory support for the racing McLaren F1s. Gordon Murray was initially reluctant, but eventually agreed to create a modified version of the McLaren F1 for racing in the 1995 season, 25 years ago. Due to the extreme design of the McLaren F1, very few modifications were needed to turn it into a racing car. The bodywork of the car received additional cooling ducts, the interior was stripped of all luxuries and fitted with a roll cage, the original brakes were replaced with carbon brakes, the active rear wing of the road car was replaced with a larger fixed wing, and due to the regulations of the BPR Global GT Series, an air restrictor was used on the F1's V12 engine, reducing the power output to 600 horsepower. The new car was called the McLaren F1 GTR. The F1 GTR was slower in a straight line than the road car, but was significantly lighter and produced its own weight and downforce at 100 miles per hour. A total of 9 F1 GTRs were built in 1995, 8 of which were initially distributed to several racing teams. with chassis number 01R being kept as a test car by McLaren. The McLaren F1 GTR achieved success in the BPR Global GT Series, winning race after race as the season continued. Given the car's success, the decision was made to enter 6 of the F1 GTRs from the BPR Global GT Series into the 1995 24 Hours of Le Mans, the pinnacle of sports car racing. Chassis number 01R was also brought to Le Mans in 1995 at the late insistence of Kokusai Kaihatsu Racing and was run by Lazante Motorsport, using the racing number 59. Unlike in the BPR Global GT Series, the 24 Hours of Le Mans featured prototypes, which were purpose-built to be racing cars. While the McLaren F1 GTR was expected to do well against other cars within its class, most expected the significantly faster prototypes to achieve overall victory. Qualifying for the race seemed to prove this, as the McLaren F1 GTRs qualified 9th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 20th overall. At the start of the 1995 24 Hours of Le Mans, the prototypes, which qualified in the front of the grid, raced away into the lead. After the first hour of racing, heavy rain began to fall, which would continue for 17 hours. The heavy rain reduced the power advantage of the prototypes, leveling the playing field for the McLaren F1 GTRs. By the halfway point of the race, the F1 GTRs were leading in first, second, and third overall, with all but one of the prototypes either having retired from the race or proved difficult to drive in the heavy rain. As the race continued, however, reliability issues began to impact the leading F1 GTRs, and by 2 hours from the finish, only the number 59 Kokusai Kaihatsu Racing F1 GTR was left in the lead. All the while, they were being chased down by the number 13 Courage C34 prototype, which, once dawn broke and the rain eased off, was significantly faster than the leading McLaren. As the race neared ever closer to the end, the number 13 Courage continued to take huge chunks out of the number 59 McLaren's lead, reeling them in lap after lap. However, in spite of the sheer speed of the number 13 Courage, after 24 hours of racing, the number 59 Kokusai Kaihatsu Racing McLaren F1 GTR, chassis number 01R, driven by JJ Leto, Yannick Dalmas, and Masanori Sakiya, won the 1995 24 Hours of Le Mans. 25 years ago, McLaren made history, achieving overall victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans on their first attempt, with the F1 GTR, a modified road car, beating purpose-built prototypes. The F1 GTR would continue to achieve success in the BPR Global GT Series and would continue to be upgraded further through the late 1990s, racing internationally until 2005. I'm Hewitt Cherry, and thanks for watching.